I'd like to now call on our second presenter, Mr. Robert Eggington from Dumbartung. Robert's had a really long involvement, more than 20 years working in the Noongar community at base level organisations such as Kalila, the Aboriginal Medical Service, the Childcare Agency, Jurupan Living Arts Centre, and at Dumbartung Aboriginal Corporation. He was the first spokesperson for the Aboriginal Visitors Scheme, a founder of the highly successful and very important Kayana Cultural Festival. He's coordinated arts programs in West Australian prisons and instigated international campaigns regarding cultural ownership issues and intellectual property issues, particularly in relation to Marlo Morgan, Elizabeth Durack and Colin Johnson campaigns. He's worked in NAIDOC Week, coordinated many rallies and protests regarding Noongar issues, and one of the most important things he has come up with is the Wall of Shame at Dumbartung, exposing examples and samples of the exploitation of Indigenous cultures. Mr. Robert Eggington.
Thanks, Jill, and I also want to make comment that I'm in some degree in awe of being on this panel as well amongst such great articulate Noongar people, and also that panels like this allows the Noongar people to be able to put our voice of concern across to the wider community about issues. But in driving down here this morning, I was thinking about the exhibition, and the exhibition in relation to its theme of incarceration. What conjured up in my mind obviously was the same that conjures up in a lot of people's minds: bars, shackles, concrete cells and wardens. And in thinking about those images, I also had a thought that, Aboriginal people are incarcerated in many other different ways as well. Since colonisation, our people have been imprisoned psychologically, emotionally and spiritually. So in many ways, a lot of our people are doing time. Yagan camped and hunted on the grounds of the Canning, and we're still here today. So are our women and so are our children. I would like to give my respects to our ancestors that have gone before us, especially those that sacrificed their lives in the forced occupation of Noongar territory. The great warriors of the Canning River area and this area, Wallyallop, place of winds. I would also like to acknowledge an individual here today, a person who has the courage of strength to confront cultural exploitation at a grassroots level, a person who is a true advocate against spiritual colonisation. She has toppled white-made didgeridoo stands from so-called five-star prestige galleries in Cairns to street hawker stands in Fremantle, and I'd like to welcome Selina Eggington to this forum. A great leader of the Canning area that forged frontier respect by white people in his own was Yagan. Yagan stated to Advocate George Fletcher Moore on the eve of his death, "You come to our country, you have driven us from our lands. We can no longer walk in our own country. We are fired upon by white men. Why should the white man treat us so?" Following his death, his head was severed from his body, his skin flayed to remove his ceremonial markings, and sometime later his head was put up on public display in St George's Terrace as a deterrent to black resistance. In 1839, George Fletcher Moore stated, "We are no match for them. Our only hope is to set them against each other." 150 years ago in Western Australia, Aboriginal people were declared under the Flora and Fauna Act. This allowed the widespread propaganda that Australia was terra nullius, void of human life. More tragically, it lit the fires of extermination where the bodies of our people burned to ashes as massacres of Holocaust proportions were instigated throughout this country. Many of the waterholes were poisoned and laced with strychnine. Our women were forced slaves to the white masters. Sacred and significant religious sites were violated and destroyed. Sacred and significant ceremonial objects stolen and pillaged. The Christian missionaries commenced their strategy to religiously colonise our people. These past atrocities, coupled with the 1905 Native Welfare Act that enforced the laws governing the removal of Aboriginal children from their biological parents and natural environments, were, I believe, deliberate strategies of social experimentations that would give evidence to future attempts to nullify the Aboriginal bloodlines and eventually eradicate all Aboriginal existence. History clearly defines that Aboriginal people have suffered immense trials of scientific experimentations, being subjected to projects such as the vampire experiment, Many samples of blood, skin, hair, even eye tissue and internal organs have been without consent removed for medical studies. Vaccinations prior to public distribution for hepatitis B and other diseases were initially trialled on our people, and the human effects and responses to the anti-pregnancy drug Depo-Provera were carried out on our women prior to its legalised medical use. The bones and the skeletal body parts of our people were dispersed throughout world laboratories for scientific research and also as macabre souvenirs. Many skulls of our proud warriors were carved to become ashtrays within the confines of the wealthy homes of the aristocrats of Britain and Europe. Institutionalised racism and religious intolerance predominates policies of social, political and academic institutions, disempowering the recognition of justice and equality of the rights of our people. This severe form of racism is the foundation upon which Australia maintains the continued colonial system of oppression and spiritual genocide, enforcing the continued cycles of poverty and despair that give subterfuge and justification to their control of power over every aspect of our life. Many of our communities are maintained in crisis mode, still existing in third world conditions, experiencing great difficulties in accessing water, power, living in substantial housing, with very poor healthcare services and little, if any, access to emergency services. Our community organisations have been infiltrated by non-Aboriginal interests who continuously exploit our financial resources, disengaging the empowerment of the rights of our people to control our own decision-making processes. With little hope of resisting the despair of poverty as a result of this dispossession, our human rights, many modern introduced diseases such as alcoholism, drug addiction, family violence and child sexual abuse continue to plague and impact on many of our people's lives. Our young people continuously face the challenge of a brutal, sadistic colonial system with out-of-control law and security enforcement agencies. Many of our people are incarcerated as a result of economic circumstances, imprisoned via political indifferences. Many of our people have died in custody and we are imprisoned at a rate far greater than non-Aboriginal people. Traditionally, Noongar people have walked this land since creation. Our ancestors' hunting grounds, sacred sites, trade routes and burial grounds are designated throughout the city and the suburban areas. Fire from the sacred Bulka bush burned back the land, ensuring new growth and plentiful supply. Great ceremonial gatherings such as the Banksia or Yellow Season were held where Northbridge now stands. Where once our proud people gathered in unity, the government has shackled our young people to modern-day curfews. Our old people's way of life has all but nearly been destroyed. Language, ceremonial knowledge and wisdom that existed and was passed through thousands of generations lies in diluted and minimised forms within the archives of anthropological interests. Continued to political and academic institutions, like the cultural objects of our once great warriors, it has now become the symbolic trophies of the white man's ruthless obsession to conquer and colonise. Sacred and significant sites of great ceremonial importance have become tourist meccas, destroying their spiritual and cultural entity. Their value now is only determined in the amount of dollars which they generate for tourism. Our traditional bush medicine, found in the rich and unique flora and fauna of this land, which has great healing power, has become commercially explored by pharmaceutical companies, naturopaths, botanists, herbalists and self-proclaimed healers, who scientifically research its medical components for vaccinations and cures for world sickness, whilst multinational companies promote and market them as new age lotions and potions. The extensive totemic wildlife of our lands are now bred to farm for the sale of their unique byproducts, offered as menu items across international restaurants, appearing on multinational supermarket shelves, satisfying a world market of curiosity and difference, while vast majorities of many life forms have now been declared rare or extinct since colonisation. Our sacred and significant cultural objects such as the didgeridoo, clapsticks and bull roarers are all marketed and sold as unique souvenirs, becoming mantelpiece ornaments and objects of foreign New Age practice. What was once sacred objects for ceremonial use now echo out from world orchestras, rock bands, commercial advertising and street corner buskers. Our great symbols of ancient stories representing creation ceremonies since time immemorial are imitated and solicited onto tourist products, lining the walls of Devonshire tea rooms, media advertising, government-funded art in public place projects, government propaganda and commercial product selling. Our people's spiritual and cultural pride has been reduced to suffering the humiliation of generating economics from our traditional heritage, capitalising on colonisation, selling our culture, trading our spirituality, whilst you wine, dine and play golf on our old hunting grounds. Our culture is promoted by government policy as an industry, creating an opportunity for commercial sustainability. Classified as art, our traditional dances become theatrics for the pleasure and the entertainment of white middle-class audiences. Our religious stories enforced into the world marketplace, sold as investment product, where their value is determined by non-Aboriginal interests, such as Sotheby's auctioneers, multinational publishing companies, such as HarperCollins, and private sector business owners, who continuously exploit our spirituality for every dollar they can parasite from it. This policy strategy defines the evolutionary process of spiritual colonisation, stripping Noongar people of dignity and cultural integrity. Even though specific problems and issues regarding Indigenous cultural ownership ethics confront the New Age movement, these problems cannot be understood by researching it as an autonomous ethic, without prejudice or bias to the source of institutionalised information it seeks. Maybe the world of anthropology itself is somewhat responsible for the very nature of the evolution of New Age imperialism. ATSIC, native title and reconciliation, has pacified the Aboriginal resistance and struggle. The government maintains the corruption in our community to justify their own control, enforcing division, creating greed and lust for power, giving credence to individualism, the very threat to unity, setting our own people against each other. The Aboriginal struggle and cause for this generation is to rebuild the cultural and spiritual strengths of our people's identity, to generate pride and knowledge of who we are as a people and where we belong in the vast diversity of all living things, to re-establish the authority and respect of our elders so their knowledge and experience can again become the beacons through the darkness of pain and suffering, reigniting the ashes of our once great campfires, lighting the way for the unification of our people. Human rights agendas and forums are politically pirated for human consumption by past High Court judges, retired magistrates, doctors, lawyers and academics. A hidden history exists, blinding the reality and creating a false illusion of the truth to the colonial history of this country. It is our struggle to tell our story our way. May our campfires burn forever. I just want to say before I sit down, I'm not an academic or an intellectual, and like Jill said, I've worked in the Aboriginal community for 23 years. I have children who are now 21 years and over, and I thought for this particular panel I'd jot down a number of my own thoughts, my experience over the last 20 years. And a lot of this has been written not only from my own life experiences, but what I see my young kids and my young cousins going through today. Because what we need as Aboriginal people is not any longer acknowledgements of our traditional ownership to land. We hear that in terms of protocol in every venue or forum in which we attend, and or reconciliation. What our young people need is freedom, and the freedom to be who they are. And I often say to my young son, never become what this system wants you to become. Be your own person, and from there learn from the elders and always learn from your own cultural and spiritual essence. Thank you.